Welcome everyone to Midwest Tree ID. On this channel, it is my mission to help you learn an abundance of trees that grow right here in the Midwest, and some key features on how to identify them. There's just one thing to clarify before we begin. We're not going to be throwing hatred or ridiculing any of the species that we're going to be talking about. But we do, however, want to encourage thoughtful conversation in the comments about personal experiences and things like that. Please try to remember that everything has value and that we are here to enjoy nature and everything it has to offer. So without anything else, let's jump right in. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're in my backyard and we are talking about Acer saccharinum. This is our silver maple, one of the most abundant trees planted across pretty much all the Midwest. In fact, according to Champaign-Urbana's tree planting records, I think silver maple was the second most abundant tree in the city, which is not really a shocker. There was once a time when it was extensively planted, and there are certain reasons why it does not get a lot of positive attention by today's standards, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at the leaves. Now, these leaves are, for a silver maple, these are relatively small, but these are going to have typically 3 lobes, very dissect lobes in between each one, with a lot of these more pointed teeth that kind of surround and encase each lobe. But yeah, very dissect. On some of these silver maples, you do have 5 lobes, but this one mostly has 3. Yeah, you can see just how dissect and deep cut these lobes are. They look like somebody was trying to make like one of those little paper snowflakes with some scissors or something. And they are a fairly nice shiny green. And then the underside is where it gets that silver maple silver name. When you see, you can see it's kind of a lighter silvery green color, and that's very abundant, very observable when the wind blows through it. Kind of gets those leaves flapping around. You can kind of see where it gets that silver maple name from. It can be easy to mistake silver maple sometimes for red maple. Their leaves are very similar in comparison to like that of the Norway maple or sugar maples. And so, yeah. It also can be very common, although not so much on this. I did have one up there that a lot of the times when the leaves are emerging, they'll be a little bit of a bronzy reddish color sometimes. The same can be true for red maple and a lot of our maples actually, but it's a very common feature with the silver maples, and that's true for a lot of the silver maple seedlings that you find. So for now, let's go ahead and take a look at the bark, and we'll take a look at the habit. So the bark on silver maple is typically going to be very flaky, almost peeling. You can really flake these off a little bit, and it's going to be kind of gray, mainly gray, with some hints of some darker grays in there. But it's very consistent in its color and that texture, that flaky, peeling kind of texture. And there are some that that have very significant flaking bark. But this one is not quite as flaky as what you might see on some of the others. So silver maple, it's kind of hard for me to get this in the full shot here, but you can see silver maple is definitely one of our larger maples. This is not one of the largest silver maples in town, though, for sure. There's another fairly large silver maple over there. There's like 3 or 4 more in the yards next to me here. But yes, silver maple, very large, can easily hit heights of 70 feet with a spread of 40 to 50, even 60 feet. There's some very large silver maples all across the Midwest. And one of the key features about silver maple is it's known for this very large arcing branch structure, which can actually cause problems in storms and high winds and things like that. Like pretty much all of our other maples, silver maple is going to have a samara seed that are born in pairs of two, and they look just like your typical helicopters. These are the ones that you frequently find when they land in your gutters. They grow in your gutters. The seed is it germinates very, very easily, and I find that to be kind of a big nuisance here, especially with the nursery pots. I get silver maples popping up in my nursery pots all the time. It's still a beautiful tree. It isn't something that I typically want in my nursery pots, though. But you find it in the landscape over there, growing along the fences. So it is very prolific in the landscape. It is a native species to pretty much most of the entire Midwest, and other areas of the United States as well. But it can certainly be a little bit of a problematic species in the landscape. And one of the reasons, another one of the reasons anyway, is its root system is very, very aggressive, very widespread, and very powerful. In fact, when I first moved into this house, I had to have my entire sewer system relined because the silver maple's root system had completely broken through the clay tile that was originally installed there. It's a very, very common problem with silver maples and a handful of other species, but typically this is the culprit behind that problem. Um, and so that is really one of the big reasons it doesn't get extensively used in landscapes anymore. And a lot of cities have actually informed homeowners to not use it for those types of reasons. It can be very damaging to some of the structures, and it is also not the strongest wooded tree. And like I said, when you have these huge arcing branches and limbs like this has, it can be very prone to having problems with ice and heavy winds. And so frequently when you find a lot of tornadoes or rough storms have rolled through areas, silver maple is almost always going to be one tree you find down somewhere. Very, very common problem with silver maples. That doesn't change the fact that they can still be a nice tree in a large open area, maybe where there's nothing else around for it to land on when it does fall. But otherwise, it still is a nice tree. It just was something that I would be very, very cautious about using regularly in the landscape for a lot of those reasons right there. But I think that's pretty much going to do it for the silver maple today. Again, thanks for joining me, and be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.